Good morning, and welcome to the online version of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Swannanoa Valley for May 23rd, 2021. My name is Spence Voskew, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. These are the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which were never truer than they are today. Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that. Hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. I have a couple of announcements. Next week is the last time Evan will be sending out the Sunday morning email with the links to the adult and children's Sunday services and our virtual coffee hour. Please begin using the links in our weekly newsletter, The Current. The Current is published every Thursday and shows up in your email inbox. Also, next week's Sunday service features musicians from the great state of Massachusetts. We are allowed to post their music for only 24 hours. The service will be available for you to view from 10:45 next Sunday morning to 10:45 Monday morning. At 10:45 Monday morning, which is Memorial Day, we will have to remove next Sunday's service from the Facebook and YouTube pages. We hope you'll be able to join us to enjoy these musicians next Sunday. Please join us after the service today on Zoom for conversation and connections with each other. And now, let the service begin.
So, here we go. There we are. Now we can stop.
Our opening words are from two very different sources, but they happen to be consecutive in the hymnal, and they go so well together I couldn't bring myself to separate them. Come into this place of peace, and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory, and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power, and let its vision change your heart. For now the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of singing has come. The fig tree puts forth its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Our opening hymn is number 207. Earth was given as a garden.
want to welcome you again I'm glad you decided to spend your Sunday with us. And so I want to draw your attention to the reading this morning, which is reading number 512 in the back of the gray hymnal. And that reading is called "We Give Thanks This Day." For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations, we give thanks this day. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunrises and sunsets, we give thanks this day. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, and our achievements, we give thanks this day. For our human community, our common past and our future hopes, our oneness transcending all the illusions of separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and seemingly unending oppression, we give thanks for this day. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views that we do not even share, we give thanks for this day. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom, we give thanks this day. For human liberty and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and to grow, no matter how uncomfortable, to affirm and choose, we give thanks this day. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. The choir will have a treat for us. The Blue-Green Hills of Earth is our next choir selection. Thank you, choir.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies, for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home
This is the time in the service when we invite you to share a joy, a concern, a sorrow. We do this so that we can keep a pulse on the community and kind of know what it helps me do that. And so we can see where you're coming from and keep our sense of our free religious community. So with that being said, I will share a joy that I think we're getting closer to opening up. I don't have a date, so don't hold me to that, but I'm hopeful. I also want to, a concern, Sandra Abramitis is facing some health challenges, particularly a hip replacement. And so she asks that we keep her in our thoughts and in our prayers. And now you have the floor.
Dear friends, my son Walter Stillman is asking for your prayers for his health. He is in California at UCLA, one of the big hospitals, and they're finding all kinds of things that they think are wrong with him. And he is hurting so bad, and he is so afraid. So, thank you very much for thinking of him. He is specifically asking for prayers. Thank you. My name is Ann Silman.
Hi, this is Larry Perlman, and I just wanted to share a joy with everybody. I moved to Black Mountain almost 4 years ago, and ever since I moved here, I have been wanting to take a trip to the Outer Banks. And finally, last week, Marty and I did exactly that, and we had a great time. I learned a lot about Wilbur and Orville Wright when I visited Kitty Hawk. We went up to Duck. Of course, we had to go to Duck Donuts. We went to Hatteras Lighthouse. We went to Bodie Lighthouse. We went to another lighthouse. We got on the ferry. I love to ride ferries. I haven't done it in years, and we rode the ferry from Hatteras over to Ocracoke Island. Say that 3 times fast. And just had dinner over there. So it felt like we were part of the jet setters. We just went to Ocracoke Island for dinner. And one of the highlights was going to a preserve. It was Nag's Head Preserve. If you've never been there, it's worth the trip. You feel like you're in prehistoric times. It's just a wonderfully peaceful, quiet, gorgeous place to visit. So we just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Hi, this is Larry Perlman, and I have a joy to share. I have a very dear friend named Anna Leonard, whom I've known for many, many years. She came out to visit about 2 weeks ago, and as is the case with a lot of us, Black Mountain and Asheville just grabbed her. So she is now moving here, which is wonderful. And one of the things that she'll be doing is looking for some kind of employment. And just to be brief here, I would just tell you that she's really good at making things beautiful. She's a floral arranger, but she does all kinds of wonderful things to make things beautiful. And she's also extremely organized. So if anybody knows anybody that might have some kind of a position, contact me either by email or give me a call, and I'll put you in touch with Anna and see if anything works out. In the meantime, she won't be around much the next couple of weeks, but I'm sure you'll all get to meet her. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, this is Milt Wharton, and I'm going to read some joys that came in this week. First one is from Jim and Aileen Carillon. On this past Monday, Aileen and Jim Carillon, aka Grammy and Poppy, played in a new sandbox with their former foster child, Finley, and his brother Nathaniel in their backyard. When we arrived, both boys ran up to give us each a big hug. We all had a great time making and wrecking sandcastles, watching the boys jump on the trampoline, and just running around their newly fenced backyard. Grammy brought orange juice popsicles, which the boys always love, and Finley called her Grammy for the first time. Poppy got exhausted after only 90 minutes, but survived. Life is truly good. And from Dev Effencheck, who's chairperson of our Building and Grounds Committee. A joy and shout out to the great volunteers who are helping to prep, paint, and clean up during this paint project. The RE room and nursery room and soon to be painted foyer will all look wonderful. Thank you. And that's the end of the joys.
O Spirit of life and renewal, we have wintered enough, mourned enough, oppressed ourselves enough. Our souls are too long cold and buried, our dreams all but forgotten, our hopes unheard. We are waiting to rise from the dead. In this, the season of steady rebirth, we awaken to the power so abundant, so holy, that returns each year through earth and sky. We will find our hearts again and our good spirits. We will love and believe and give and wonder and feel again the eternal power. The flow of life moves ever onward, through one faithful spring and another, and now another. May we be forever grateful. Alleluia. Amen.
I want to thank Tim Perry for jumping in. It's always a treat when Tim is here. So thank you, Tim, for that lovely meditation. Our next anthem is one of my favorites, Down to the River to Pray. That's the next choir anthem, Down to the River to Pray.
As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, sisters, let's go down, let's go down, come on down. Oh, sisters, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, brothers, let's go down, let's go down, come on down. Come on, brothers, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, fathers, let's go down, come on down. Oh, fathers, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, mothers, let's go down, come on down, don't you want to go down? Come on, mothers, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray,
Thank you, choir, for that treat. It's that time again, folks. And so, again, the quote by William James, the greatest use of life is to spend it on something that will outlast it. And with that spirit, we will now collect this morning's offering. I thank you for your generosity. These gifts are deeply needed and deeply appreciated. So thank you very much. So let's jump in. A life that is worth living. I've been thinking about that. It means different things to different people. All human beings, I don't care who you are, what you look like, all human beings on some deep level are seeking a way of life that is authentic, that is good, that is beautiful, a life that is true. And some people may not even know that this is what they're seeking, and some do know, and they don't know how to get there. Maybe you're one of those. The challenge is that the journey to this good life is different for all of us. One size does not fit all. Similar journeys? Yes. Different journeys? Yes. Because we all see things differently, we interpret our experiences differently, yet we are all human beings. And this morning I want to examine the ways in which we make this journey, considering the similarities that we have with one another. We know the differences. Sometimes we highlight those even more. We know the differences. In the first place, there is a common desire for a better world. Now, we may disagree on how to get there. We may disagree on what that world looks like, but I believe most folks would like to see a better world. All human living and all human action are based on that idea. That is to say that there are things in life, there are things in the life of a human being that are manageable, that are capable of change, or there are things which are not manageable or capable of change. Now, if the latter is true, if that is true, then it is merely an illusion to assume that basic institutional change in the life of human beings is possible. I don't happen to believe that. A close scrutiny of the study of human life reveals that this assumption is simply not true. There is a deep longing, you can call it a bias if you will. Let's use that word. There's a deep bias in human life that insists that the contradictions of life are not final. The contradictions of human experience are not ultimate contradictions. So that means that social change is possible, that even intent and purpose can be altered, and that the fate of the individual is in some sense in his or her own hands. We're not victims. We do have some control over what happens in our lives. And so the spirit of humanity stubbornly refuses to accept that the contradictions of life are not final. Said it another way, Good Friday has to come before Easter. Sometimes you got to go through that struggle, that rebirth, in order to come out on the other side. Sometimes blindly, sometimes with little hope of vindication, often with wild irrationality, mind you. The spirit of human beings dares to affirm that the ultimate end of humanity is good. And this is why the ultimate end of humanity is good. I wanted to repeat it. We're Unitarian Universalists. We don't believe that you're born in sin. We believe that you can evolve. Now, this is not to knock our brothers and sisters down the street, but we're coming to the table saying that basically we are good people. This is crucial. It is vital. It's an important fact because it becomes the basis of hope in times of despair, in times of pandemic. The incentive of dreams for a better day when the times are out of joint and human beings seem to have lost their reason and the ground of optimism is lost. Worlds crash and our dreams are deferred. What keeps us going is that eventually we know that life is good. It may not be good for everyone at all the time, which makes us more privileged, more blessed, if you will. It is a truism that when we are united by a common desire for a better world, we bring out the best in each other. Now, I'm not being Pollyanna. Not every human being wants that. I get it. For a world, though, in which it is a rational hope that human beings can live together in peace and in fellowship, we all want to be a friendly world, of friendly folk underneath a friendly sky. In this time in history, humanity has made the most far-reaching intellectual advances, for instance, in exploring and exploiting nature, plumbing the depths of the human mind and spirit with the tools of medicine and therapy, a time when we are learning to master disease and pandemics, a time when we are attempting to visit other planets. I mean, China is going to put a rover on Mars. We already have. Russia has already. These are the times we're exploring other worlds, inner and outer worlds. And yet, we have lost confidence in the ability of humanity to become capable to tend to the deeper needs of the human spirit. We lack faith in each other for hope and for growth and for security. It's a curious thing. It's a curious thing that our technological progress has outdistanced our spiritual progress. We have reduced the world to a neighborhood, but not a sister and brotherhood. And yet we still hope for a better world. Secondly, the degree to which this desire for a better world takes the shape of singleness of purpose determines the quality of our power to achieve what we say we are seeking. We have scarcely touched the possibilities of achievement because of the nature of life. It is to be noted that in the world of nature, now I want you to hear this. In the world of nature, whenever the conditions for growth are met, that growth is automatic. You don't have to do anything except create the conditions. When a seed is planted and the conditions are right, I'm talking about moisture, and I'm not a horticulture person, but moisture, the temperature is perfect and the like, the growth of that seed, you walk away. It's automatic. Once the conditions are met. Well, I say that the same is true when an individual selects a goal and devotes all of his or her powers to the fulfillment of that goal. It's automatic. They become a person of power and achievement. After all, it rains on the just and the unjust. Do we teach this to our children, though, is one of the questions. Do we teach our children, I mean, really, a reverence for life? How can we, if we don't really believe it ourselves? Do we teach lies to our children? Can we teach trust when we are bound by a network of impersonal social relations which create the kind of climate in which trust cannot survive? I wonder. I wonder. What do we mean when we teach the brotherhood and sisterhood of humanity? Can we expect more from the state or the body politic? How can we teach love from behind these great walls of separateness? The truth is that we can't. We can't. Yet even though I believe that our longing as human beings is that the contradictions of life are not final, it's a curious thing that we must be reminded of this in order to have a way of life that is worth living. In times of crisis, especially in times of crises, we must be reminded of this because it is of the nature of a crisis to so dominate the horizon of our thoughts that everything that is not directly related to the crisis situation is irrelevant. It seems irrelevant and without significance. The crisis throws everything out of proportion. Everything is out of balance, and the balance appears to be always on the side of disaster. You ever notice that? On the side of negation. I mean, after all, we must have toilet paper and we must have gasoline. So if the contradictions of life are ultimate contradictions, then the conflict between love and hate, between right and wrong, between order and chaos can never be fully resolved. And yet the human spirit is not willing to accept this. How do you explain it? I don't know. I'm asking you. There continues the belief that the ultimate destiny of humanity is good. This affirmation becomes the ground. It keeps us going. The ground of optimism and inspiration, no matter how many pandemics we have to go through, how much racial strife, how many wars and rumors of wars we have to go through. But if the ultimate destiny of humanity is good, then we must find in the present time a way of life that is worth living. Not in the future, certainly not in the past, but right now. We must maintain a faith that can be honestly and intelligently held. We must work for the kind of world in which even the weakest may find refuge and refreshment. And so we're all on the quest for a way of life that is worth living. We want to feel, all of us, we want to feel that we matter, that we're significant, that we are engaged in something that is meaningful. There must be a sense of something that is at stake in each day's experience. I'll give an example. Because if this is not true, what I'm saying for us, then life grows dingy and monotonous. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know. If I did know, we could split the Nobel Prize money. Perhaps this is why we have so many wars. I'm just throwing it out there. Despite the tragedy, the terror, the wreckage, we seem to love it as human beings. We know what war does. We know the costs to humanity. We know what this does to human beings, what war brings. We know that war is a cruel and nasty business. But when war comes, something is at stake. In our day-to-day living, it gets us hyped up. It gets us ramped up. It's like an adrenaline rush that a soldier gets when you survive combat. You have defied the gods of war. You have survived. Because look at our country now. Look now. With all of its violence and cruelty, something is at stake. The ordinary individual all of a sudden counts now in a strange new way, because of our politics and because of this pestilence called COVID-19. All of a sudden, everybody matters. The country now cares about what we do. We are somehow all citizens now, and where some of us weren't even looked at as citizens before. It now becomes critically important what everybody does. All of a sudden, this past year. Everybody and everything counts. Something is in the air. Things are happening. Monotony is blasted. Boredom is blasted out of the air. Something is at stake. We have new responsibilities. My country needs me. Now I fly to the rescue. I'm just here to remind you that whether there's a pestilence or whatever, there is always something at stake in everything that we do. There is a sharp and pointed urgency in the living of each and every day. Each one of us, high or low, rich or poor, educated or unlettered, sick or healthy, each one of us lives under the scrutiny of this universe, and there is no escaping this fact. This truth must be proclaimed clearly, unequivocally, so that even the most humble person will know that he or she must live each day conscious of this awareness that you and I are significant, and that we depend on one another. What I do, what you do then, is extremely important. You must not forget that. How I live is never simply my business. There is the interconnectedness of life. The truth remains before, during, and after any crisis. And this is the template of the affirmation that the ultimate goal of humanity is pointing towards the good. Stripped of all pretense, this is the truth that we seek. And so we must all discover, each in our own time, a way of life that is worth living. May it always be so. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. Our closing hymn this morning is hymn number 12. Hymn number 12 is our closing hymn, O Life that maketh all things new. Our closing words this morning are from the Reverend Bruce Southworth. Bruce writes, "If only the world were as kind as a child can imagine it. Let us go forth as bearers of light, bearers of justice, and bearers of kindness." Thank you so much for choosing to spend your Sunday morning with us. Have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. Thank you.
So maybe I should I light the chalice, then do the opening words, and then introduce the hymn? Would that flow better?
For me, I get mixed up.
Oh, I thought you were going to do.
Oh, yeah, poor communication. Let's go ahead and just do this. We can sub this in later.
This is our Saturday night. This is Saturday Night Live UU service. We're done. Thank you. We are done.